the subject I decided to talk about today is perfection. So I've got three examples of how perfection is a negative. The first example, years ago, I was watching a Pixar documentary. The people that make all the 3D animation movies work for Disney. And there was an interview with a lady that said that her job was to go into computer perfect scenes and mess them up to make them more realistic. So she would go to, someone had created a 3D world and she would go in and mess stuff up. She would crooked picture frames on the wall. She would put scratches on the floor to make it look more realistic, because nobody believes that life is completely perfect. And I just thought that was really interesting because that was actually her job. She was an artist, but her whole purpose there was to make things look less than perfect. So that was very interesting. So the second example I have is music. So in the 80s and 90s, electronic computer generated music became a very popular thing. And there was a spike headed into the 2000s where everything got very synthesized, very computer generated, and it became too perfect. Then suddenly acoustic versions of those same songs became really popular because nobody wanted to listen to a computer anymore. We needed to hear the keystrokes. We needed to hear the slide on the guitar neck, stuff like that, because we're human. We like hearing it being created. We don't like perfection. That's not the goal. And the third example is kind of bringing it up to speech. My sister, she works for a lawyer in town, and when she answers the phone, she got so good at answering the phone, people would hang up on her because she sounded like a robot. She would have the same spiel over and over and every day, and she would actually have people like, yeah, this is a telecall or a robot or something, and they would actually hang up on her, which I thought was just hilarious because she was so good at it. But it was the same concept. She was completely perfect and people didn't believe it. So she told me she would actually pause and she would say, and she would intentionally lose her train of thought, and she would forget their name, and she would do stuff like that to make it, to make them believe she was actually a real person and they needed to stay on the phone and listen to her. So that's my third example of how perfection actually messes stuff up. So as a stutterer, our goal a lot of times is to be perfect. And I think that is disastrous because I don't think it's necessarily wrong to shoot for that because you can always be better, but to expect it is a fool's errand because you're always going to be disappointed. And that's not what people want anyway. This talk I'm giving right here, there's all kinds of blips and ums and bumps in it, but that's what makes it real. And I can talk to all you guys and you guys can bounce off of what I'm saying, and you don't think that it's I'm a robot sitting here talking, and it's not perfect. My speech it's never going to be perfect, but that's not the point. Perfection isn't the goal. And that's pretty much it. I know that's a short speech, but I feel like perfection is a poison pill a lot of us take, especially as stutterers, and it never ends well.
Good. And it took me a while to understand that concept, especially as someone who stuttered, because I think we all want to be perfect, but that's not the goal. So I was going to ask you a question. What should be the goal for a stutterer if it's not perfection?
I mean, personally, I think the goal is what other people think. I don't think you're a good judge of your own speech. I think asking your friends and like with my family, they'll tell me they've forgotten that. They say, oh yeah, you used to stutter when you were a kid, and I'm like, yeah, I still do, but you can't tell it. So I think that's, and Lee, you probably have deeper wisdom on that than I do, but I don't think that we are I don't think the stutterer is a good judge of our own speech.
Is it necessary to judge your speech at all? Or is it simply, once we're comfortable with the crutches, we need them less and less? I would add that, Clifton, you sound as much like a stutterer as Winston Churchill did. Your speech is flawless. For those who don't know,
is it perfect though? That's the question.
No, nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect. We're in
I'm
the
just kidding.
universe. There's nothing perfect in the universe. We know that.
Yeah, I had a comment. So first of all, really great speech. Not
Thank you.
perfect, it was great. And you made a really important distinction, I think. Trying to remember it now. You said that we ought to aim for perfection, but not expect it. I think that's really important so that we can have the balance between progress, but not apathy, given the state of things that we can't be perfect. That's quite important. And to the comment that was made before mine, good goal for me that makes sense is if I communicate my message, then that's surely the goal of speech.
I think that if we try to aim to perfection, that's not healthy, that's not good for us. I think that instead of that, we should try to improve every day, not to get worse. We have to try to improve and to enjoy what we are doing. That's the idea, to try to improve a little bit every day. But we shouldn't try to be perfect, because that's when problems appear, not only with our speech, with stuttering, but maybe with other problems, with other mental disorders, maybe some kind of anorexia if we try to have a perfect body or something like that. And yeah, and that's that's the main idea that I wanted to share with you guys.
Yeah, that's good. You've all heard the term, you're either green or growing or brown and dying. So even if you're an oak tree and taking forever, as long as you're green and growing, that's where you need to be.
If we try to consciously speak with a lot of effort, like when we equate being perfect with trying things with a lot of effort and consciousness and being really like, I don't know, like trying too hard, I think that can be quite an issue in something that should be really easeful and easygoing. And I think that a way of making this not happen, basically, and speak more at ease and free flowing, can basically be speaking with passion. Because when you try to control consciously so much the actual movements, I think that may be when stutters may arise. So I think that, yeah, by striving to be perfect in a process that should be automatized and not so consciously controlled, I think that can be an issue.
I was going to add that being from Alabama, there's no hope of my speech being perfect. I was just going to throw that out there. Like I'm doomed to start with. So
You
I
recognize
am
it.
too.
Yeah, so just to follow up on number one, what John said, I really resonate with that. That for me, the goal is about, am I communicating what I want to communicate? And the goal to me seems to be tied to that. So I just really resonated around that. And then Javier, I really like your point as well about, like every day, are we improving in some way? And that the goal is really slow progress. It's not massive change all at once. So just my entire life, that concept of slow improvement in everything has always, for me, made like, that's kind of how I operate. And so to hear you say it that way, I went, oh, hey, that really resonates too. So I wonder, I on your journey to fluency, Clifton, I wonder if you might share any thoughts you have about, like, when we talk about we want to be perfect, and then learning that that doesn't make sense, and that's not really a good way to think about this, or it's not maybe a helpful way. Is there anything you could share about your journey of going from being someone who I'm assuming at one point thought that way, and then transition to someone who recognizes that's maybe not a helpful attitude to hold? Can you say anything or share anything about your journey, or what you might tell someone who's earlier on the path about that sort of mental switch to go from pursuing perfection to pursuing progress?
Yeah, sure. So a while ago, and I kind of assumed I was the only one that ever thought this way, but the more of y'all I meet, the realize I'm not alone. But you kind of feel like as a stutterer that you get, it's like a points game or something. You have a good conversation. You feel like, hey, I gained some points there. Then you stutter and you feel like, oh man, that cut me down. And then you have another good one. Oh, I gained like it's a game or something, when you're constantly criticizing yourself. And I remember specifically years ago, I would wake up. This is when I was little. I would get up and say, okay, today I'm not going to stutter. I'm going to focus on only speaking fluently. And I would make it till 8 o'clock. And then I would just jam up on something, and it would ruin the rest of the day. It would just kill me. And I remember my mom telling me, she said, that's not the right attitude. You can't let one little thing ruin the rest of the day for you. And it was really frustrating because, every day I would feel like I had a fresh start, and I would go at it again. And after, a while of this, I just thought, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. I can't do this to myself every day, expecting to be perfect every morning. And then as soon as something goes wrong, let it ruin the rest of the day for me. And that's a trivial, 8-year-old perspective of it. But it's the truth, because if we really expect perfection, like John said earlier, you can hope for it, but you shouldn't expect it, because if we actually expect it, then we'll always be disappointed. And I basically just had to learn it the hard way, Joe, to answer your question. I had to mess it up over and over and over and over, and get depressed and mad, and all the emotions that all stutterers deal with. But I mean, that's pretty much it. It was just a self-correcting. And I did have one more thought on the slow and consistent. I was there's a concept when you're working out, trying to put muscle on, that if you sit down at the weight bench and start pushing, and you see a little bit of gains, and then you go crazy and you push 10 times that, then your body won't do anything. It doesn't know what to do with that. So you're way better off to stick with what you're doing and be consistent in the gym than changing up what you're doing over the long term. Because if you see a little bit of success, and then, like a bad sequel to a movie, you jump on everything you just succeeded on and run with it, then you'll trip over yourself and fall on your face. So the slow and steady definitely wins the race, especially when it comes to mental games, because our minds cannot be molded quickly. It's a long, slow process. And if we get frustrated at day 3 that we're not, we don't have huge improvements, then it's a big negative for sure.
Clifton, I've got a comment on something you said a minute ago about
Right.
a bad day and a good day. I can't tell you how many PWS I've talked to in my life that will say to me, well, if it's a good day, I'm doing this and that and the other, and it's pretty good, But if it's a bad day, boy, my speech is really terrible. And I said, what do you mean good day and bad day? Who's in charge of your day? If you don't make a decision as to what kind of day you're going to have, I'll make you a bet. You got at least a 50% shot of having a bad day, at least, because the environment's coming at you and negative stuff abounds. And this is why maybe it's a bit Pollyannish, but I'd rather be a Pollyanna and happy than a negative guy and sad. And as everyone on this call knows, my 10th affirmation is, today I'll make a happy day. 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 Today I'll make a happy day 20 times. That's my job. Nobody else can do that for me but me. And my speech is going to do what I expect it to do, because I've trained it. So bad days and good days, man, I urge everybody here, and that's a battle too. Do I always have a good day? No. Do I have a lot more good days than I would otherwise? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And
Joe,
again, it's the last point is, it's how you look at the day too. How do I perceive it? And I'm going to perceive it as positively as I can.
It's definitely all a mental game.